he came up and we were talking about some cards, and he took the cards and he looked at me and said, "Man, I wish my grandma was as cool as you would sell cards."
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks for joining us again for another episode of the business of ball cards. And I'm here right now with Buckeye Breakroom, and it's Jackie from Buckeye Breakroom. How are you doing, Jackie?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you definitely taking the time to be on here. I know you're busy with a full-time job and out doing shows almost every weekend. So, speaking of that, about you doing shows and getting into the hobby, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from collector into a dealer?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was younger, my dad and I collected football cards, and well, actually, baseball transitioned to some football. But he was a big baseball guy. Loved the Reds, loved the Pirates. So we collected when I was younger, and I really enjoyed that. My We tried building sets, so it was that getting the 1 through 100 or getting the 1 through 250, right, and getting all those cards. And we take our notebook paper, and as soon as we get open packs, we line them out, right, that we finish that card off and to complete those sets. And then, of course, you get older, teenager, you're hanging with your friends, sports, scholastic things at school. And then probably, gosh, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I started collecting Steelers in Ohio State because those are my teams. I'm a huge Steelers fan, love the Ohio State University. So I started building my PC, and I found like this renewed energy around sports cards. And I thought, I want to collect more. So my PC got out of control, right? I think most collectors
Yes,
at some point, right, say that, right? So
yes,
um,
yes.
it just became this. I met you, the first card show I went to with one of my friends. We met you, talked to you, gave us some great advice about if we were to be dealers or if we wanted to stream, because that's what we were trying to do originally, was set up through Whatnot. And
Mhm.
we talked about like doing breaks and things, and you gave some great advice around like how to buy smart, how to buy in bulk, those kind of things, right? So we did a little bit of streaming, but what I found really is I wanted to do card shows. I wanted to be like, a vendor set up and getting to sell and hopefully give people the same feeling I get when I find my card, right? Or a card I've been searching for, things like that. So that's kind of how I went from collector into being a dealer.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, you can't do any better than doing something you love and then turning it really into a business. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants to do, even if it's just a side hustle that
Exactly.
you enjoy.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I say this a lot. I'm very blessed. I have a career that I absolutely love and an organization that I love. The team is fantastic. And then on the weekends, I get to do something else that I love. So, really, I get to do something 7 days a week. And not everyone can say that they feel, energized every day because they get to do something they love. So, I think sports cards and just being able to build that and
Mhm.
hopefully turn it into something bigger than I am. I think that would be amazing, and I think that's what really it serves a purpose. So, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty lucky in that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. That's really good to hear. So you're now on this journey. Like I said, you're out doing shows about every weekend. So when you went to make this jump from collector into like, hey, I'm going to go out and do these shows, I'm going to get involved in this on the dealer side. Did you have any fears or doubts about getting involved? Did it almost never happen? I mean, how long did you delay before you kind of stepped out?
Well, great question. So, yeah, a lot of fear. I have a lot of internal doubt. Uh, that's just how I am in life, basically, right?
Mhm.
But I like a good challenge, and to me, this was a challenge, right? And I've always had this business background, did it for years with another industry, and I thought if I could combine that with my understanding of customer service, and then with the passion that I love, I might be able to put those three things together, right? And see what I can do. So I delayed for a while though because I had to build inventory first of all, right? So I had to really kind of study the business. So I spent a lot of times
Mhm.
at card shows. I spent a lot of time online reading things, trying to find information and starting to build relationships through like Whatnot, just talking to
Mhm.
people, that kind of stuff, right? Going to my
Hmm.
local pawn shop here where I live, spending time in there, asking a lot of annoying questions, I'm sure. But I started gathering that information and really just buying cards. And it really paid off
Hmm.
to talk to people like you, right? And just going to shows and just gather as much information as I could. And then when I felt comfortable that I had a pretty good solid inventory, I kind of understood all the variations because there's a million from when I was growing up to now, right? So
Hmm.
just
For sure.
setting up my first table, I almost didn't show. I almost called and said, or texted the gentleman and said, I can't make it. But I did. I said, because
Hmm.
again, love a challenge. Just had to work through the nerves. And I think that the first show that I did, we were pretty good. I wasn't planning on making money. My plan was to just get the brand out, start building a brand, getting people to know my face, and really start building relationships. And the first few shows, that's exactly what I did. And I think over time, I've been doing this 9 months now, somewhere in there, and I
Hmm.
feel each time more confident that every time there's still that fear. I'm going to sell,
Hmm.
say something that's incorrect or miscomp
Hmm.
a card. That I don't want to be that in that world. I want to be as close as I can on comps and try to be fair to people. And I think that those fears are still there, but they're not as pronounced as they were previously.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. So you said, a couple things. You admitted like, hey, I had fear, I had doubt, but I like what you said there. Like, you were sitting there asking the annoying questions. You were reaching out to others. You were kind of reading up on what you were getting yourself into. And so that's kind of the problem we have. We either fall on one side of the cart or the other, kind of where we like never get started. We research and research and research and never get started, or we jump in too quick. So, is there any advice, though, you would have for anybody that is fearful about taking that leap? Is there anything you would say to them?
Yeah, just do it. Get Educate yourself, feel confident in what you're doing, and don't be afraid to ask questions. There's a lot of guys out there that I'm a female. I'm one of the very few females in when I go to card
Hmm.
shows, right? Or even when I go to my
Hmm.
local card shops. There's a lot of
Hmm.
younger people in there, a lot of male,
Yes.
and then here I come walking in, right? So um,
Hmm.
it's an interesting dynamic, but I've been welcomed with open arms. Like there's groups like
Yeah.
uh, Dude, Where's My Cards, Four Baggers, Cladale, all I consider friends now. They're
Yeah.
families, I know their kids, and Austin Rigel and his dad. They're great people, and they've really
Hmm.
supported not only my business but supported me through knowledge, and that's critical. And when you can find your tribe like that,
Yeah.
that's where it is. It's all about building relationships. And then the flip side of that too really is about how do you build your customer base and get those loyal people to come back. And it's that same approach of just being trustworthy and honest. And if I don't know, I'm going to tell
Hmm.
you I don't know, but I'm going to find the answer, and then I'm going to get back to you. So it's
Yeah.
those kind of things, and just
Yeah.
having that community sports support around what we do.
Yeah, I'm currently reading, probably for the second time, Super Fans, which is a book about, turning your customers into like loyal fans
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I'm like you, I'm constantly, even with this YouTube thing, like I'm constantly researching, thinking, reading books. How can I do this more effectively? How do I get to this next step? But you kind of touched on this briefly, so I'll go ahead and make this the next question. So you decide to get into this. You've been in this a little, like you said, over 9 months. So you come in as a middle-aged woman.
Mhm.
How do you feel that the community has welcomed you, or maybe not welcomed you in certain instances? And have you found that you've maybe been an inspiration to those, 20% of girls that are actually coming out to shows and supporting shows?
Yeah, it's interesting. I share a story. It's kind of funny. It's kind of embarrassing, but kind of funny. A kid walked up to me one day, and he had been buying from me. It's like probably like the second or third time I saw him at a card show, and he came up and we were talking about some cards, and he took the cards and he looked at me and said, "Man, I wish my grandma was as cool as you would sell cards." And I'm like, "Why is he calling me grandma?" Right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a little older, but it's been interesting. Like I haven't felt any kind of um, treated differently, right? I think a lot of times I'm treated like one of the guys, which I love.
Yeah,
I want to have that kind of
yeah.
joking. I'm a humorous person anyway. It doesn't take a lot to offend me. But I think it's given me a kind of an opportunity with a unique lens to look at cards and that space. And when I interact with like younger kids, especially the younger girls, like I'll lose money on a card to help them make a deal, right? They have, they
Hmm.
come up, you see kids come up $2, $3, $4 cards,
Yeah.
and if they have a favorite player they love or team, I'm going to trade them cards, right? And just see them
Hmm.
hop or skip away from the table, laughing, going to their parents and saying, "I got this card," right? And then when the younger girls ask, like, "Why? How come you're doing this? Like, is there somebody here with you, and you're doing this by yourself?" And then I get a chance to share that, like, yeah, it's something I love, and you should go after that. So it's been
Yeah.
interesting, but I think just being able to engage with whether it's young boys or young girls, just that generation, and being able to kind of give them some insight into what I know, and I learn a lot from
Hmm.
them as well. So it's been fun, and I hope I've been inspiring to not only females, but even the younger guys in the ground, that trying to encourage them to go after what they want to do, and especially like talk to them about their high school years and what they're doing at school, and so it gives you just able to relate on different levels with them. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know that, I've been doing this longer than you,
yeah,
but it's so weird for me because like I'll go out to a show and this is no joke, just flat out naming the show, Hilliard, the Columbus sports card show. I'll go out there and I am referred to as young man way more by the
right,
other dealers than
right,
any other show I go to. Of course, like I'm literally one of the younger guys at
right,
50 set up there as a dealer. And again, I've been doing it for years. But on the other hand, when I did Grove City Card Fest, I was one of the older guys,
yeah,
set up in there. So it is interesting. You get kind of the two different sides there. But there's room in the hobby for everybody,
exactly.
for sure. And speaking of like Grove City Card Fest, I know that you actually did, and it's something I didn't do, and maybe kind of regret, but I did not do the Columbus Card Fest put on by Ryan, Card Collector 2, and Brad.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering what your experience was there. And specifically, did you notice a difference between like your sales on a Friday versus Saturday? Because that's what I've heard from a couple of people.
Yeah, so it was my biggest show. Grove City Card Fest was my biggest one I'd ever done. And then because it's just me, so I try to when I think about like growing my base and growing my customers, I try to think about sustainability as well, right? How do I keep that
Mhm.
momentum going, right? Because what I don't want to
Yeah.
do is slip back. So I have to be realistic of what I am capable of doing in that amount of time frame between two 8-foot tables and 4 or 5 cases, right? I can't talk to
Mhm.
everyone, and the bigger the bigger the events, the harder it becomes to do that, make those relationships, right? And I think I'm in a critical part of my journey where it's important that I build those relationships. And 9 months, is that the right point to expand and think I can hit that upward trajectory? I don't know yet. So Grove
Mhm.
City was my first kind of jumping into the pond in that world. I think I did very well. As far as like the momentum and getting to talk to people, there was a few I didn't get to. It's a wave and sorry as they're walking away, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Which is bad, but it happens. But then I dove into the Columbus Card Fest. I feel Friday was a blur because I was nervous, right? It's like again, it's just me, right? And to the span, I'm running back and forth, right? But I felt my Friday sales were stronger than they were Saturday.
Mhm.
Saturday morning was more repackers coming in, but I have to say on Saturday, I think I probably turned my cases probably 3 or 4 times across all 4 or 5 of them, and then my prime like those case hits that people chase, I turned that probably 6 times on Saturday. So
Mhm.
and thank
Mhm.
goodness I had those relationships because some of those kids that buy from me regularly, I was sent,
Mhm.
I was paying them a little bit more to go out and find me cars to bring back so I could sell. So they were going out
Yeah.
hunting for me and then coming back. And but again, I think Friday was probably my stronger part of that. So, but I would do it again.
Mhm.
I would definitely sign up again. I signed up for Grove City again.
Mhm.
I think that I can manage those shows. But then when you look at like a Shipsawana, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't be a team of one in a play in a vending event like that. So I'm going. I'm actually going just as a customer when it comes up next.
Yes.
But I've got my notebook ready. I'll be taking notes, and what do I
Hmm.
see? How do I operate? Uh,
Hmm.
I don't want to keep going on, but I think at the end of the day, for me, it's about building my brand. It's about that upward trajectory and knowing where's my perfect point where I'm comfortable with the size of the show, the inventory, and I'm able to take care of my customers the way that I think they should be taken care of. So I think once I hit that point, then the decision is: do I bring somebody on board to help me? Right? Do I not?
Yes.
And how do I utilize
Yes.
that person? And how do I know I've got the right person? So a lot of things to go. You run a business. You hire staff all the time, right? So, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Now, earlier, so I'm going to confess something to you here. Earlier, you kind of said, hey, when we first met or whatever, I gave you some advice. You thought it was decent advice and that sort of thing. And maybe sometimes I do give decent advice, but I'm going to tell you, this is the truth. If you would have came to me and asked me, should I do Columbus Card Fest, I would have told you no. And it's the reality of I would have missed it because I thought that show would be a lot of YouTube guys. I thought it would gain that kind of momentum.
yeah,
I did not think the average collector would show up for that show, to be completely honest. And I guessed wrong. I would say it had 3 times the amount of people through it that
yeah,
I had tossed around, or predicted, in the shop to my friends and things like that. So again, that would be a show that if I could get in, I would go do that show too. So,
yeah.
we don't always get it right, but as long as we're getting it
Right.
right, like 80 to 90% of the time,
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
we're doing okay.
No, it's okay,
So,
it's okay to make mistakes, right? As long as you don't repeat them.
yes, exactly, exactly. Um, you talked about bigger shows, going and taking notes at Shipshawana and that sort of thing. So, how is your goal different? Let's say, for somebody who's just starting to do this, if you go to a show that's 50 or 60 tables versus a show that's got 300 or 400 tables, what would your strategy be? Would it be much different or would it be basically the same?
My strategy is to engage with the people, and I try work really hard to try to like learn customers' names, and lot of times I'm not good at that, right? I'm old, I'm middle aged, I forget, right? But I try to learn at
Yeah.
least the faces and what they like, and then when I'm out
Hmm.
looking for inventory, I try to keep them in mind, right? So when they come to the table, and if Joe Smith's looking for Jordans of a certain year, then I can say, hey Joe, I found these cars, not sure if you're interested, no pressure, right? But I keep him in the
Hmm.
case. And then I think they appreciate that. Or if a lot of times, they'll text me or they'll reach out
Hmm.
through Instagram, say, hey, can you find these cards for me, right? And so I work
Hmm.
towards that. So my strategy is usually the same when it comes to either bigger or smaller shows. I just try to be realistic in my own goals of I'm not
Hmm.
going to be able to talk to every single person, right, that comes through there at a Card Fest or Grove City. But I'm going to do my best when I do have them and I'm talking to them to be that's who I'm talking to, right? And that's who I'm trying to work with
Yes.
and not scatter myself too thin amongst uh, too many people, especially the kids. When kids come up, I'm going to talk to the kids, right? I want to make sure that I'm engaging with them. But I think my strategy stays the same. Just try to be personable, be honest, get them what they want in some cards, make fair deals for them and myself.
Yeah. Before I ask you this last question, I'm going to ask you. I was just going to mention that if you're watching this and you like this type of content, make sure you give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on other social media. So, um, one of the last questions I have is, and it seems like you're a planner and a thinker.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going in the future? Let's say, where do you see yourself in 5 to 7 years with this business?
I see me still doing car shows every weekend because I love it. I love coming home at night and it's mail day, right? And you get all the packages and opening and looking at the cards and trying to associate who might be interested in those cards and comping them. I love that whole process. I love the organization when I'm done with shows, coming home and getting to reorganize everything and getting ready for the next show. So I can see me doing these. What I would like to see though is about the brand and people recognize the brand. They recognize and that what that means to people. And it's really about
Mhm.
the integrity behind what I'm trying to achieve. And it's not so much for me about like building. I want it to last. I want to have this good legacy behind it, right? Or when
Mhm.
my friends say, "Oh yeah, that's my friend," right? Or my
Yeah.
daughter says, "That's my mom," right? Those are the things that are important to me. And if I can achieve that in 5 to 6 years, then I would view myself as successful, and then I'm still able to do it, right? And the goal, though, would be, in all honesty, I'd like to be a 2-person crew. I think it'd be great to
Yeah.
have, then I could get more tables, or maybe, do the bigger shows, right? And see how I do there. But I want to make sure whatever it is I do, I'm able to sustain it, and sustain it with the goals that I set in mind from day one. If I can do that, then I'm good.
Right. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I'd like to thank you for being on here. I appreciate it. Is there any last minute thoughts that you have?
No, just thanks for the opportunity to do this. It means a lot, especially somebody like like I said, you were the first person we talked to at a card show, and it stuck with me, right? And then every time I saw you at other card shows, I wanted to make sure that I spoke to you again. So I appreciate it. I love what you're doing with the content. I think it helps dealers like myself, and I just thank you for the opportunity very much.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.